Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to master some vocabulary centered around something we all navigate, right? Family life and relationships. We have exactly 18 complex vocabulary words to get through today, and to make it super intuitive, we're using a really bright, modern flat design aesthetic. Un style d'illustration, as they say, so these concepts just naturally stick in your memory. Let's dive right in.
So, here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll start with romance and union, move into parenting and support, tackle conflict and separation, look at life's hard realities, and wrap it all up with some final practice sentences. Let's get to it.
Section 1, Romance and Union. This is all about those exciting early family dynamics. Our very first two concepts are union and married. A union simply means the relationship or marriage between two people. Picture a clean, bold illustration of a couple connected by a bright, vibrant heart. You might hear someone say, their union has lasted many years. Now, closely tied to this is being married, which of course means two people becoming husband and wife. It's two individuals literally teaming up to become one. And that brings us to a really beautiful descriptive phrase, deeply in love. It just means to love someone very, very much. Take Sarah and Tom, for example. Just imagine those cheerful little floating hearts around a happy couple. When you form that kind of strong bond, you'd say they were deeply in love when they met. Or, just like our quote here, Sarah and Tom are deeply in love.
You know, sometimes that feeling of romance can really only be described as a fairy tale, a magical and happy story. Imagine a magical castle surrounded by sparkles. When a wedding is just absolutely perfect, people will often exclaim, wow, their wedding felt like a fairy tale. It totally represents the ultimate happiness in that season of union.
Moving right along to Section 2, Parenting and Support. Let's look at some relational dynamics. Okay, here we have a great contrast between two very different parenting styles, supportive versus strict. Being supportive means helping and encouraging others. You could say, supportive parents help their children succeed. But on the flip side, we have strict, which means making absolutely sure rules are followed. For example, my father is strict about homework. Seeing these two contrasting ideas side by side really helps lock them in. Now contrast that strict parent with someone who is easygoing. This means being relaxed, not easily upset. Look at a student like Ahmed, smiling, totally comfortable. You could say she is friendly and easygoing, or Ahmed is an easygoing student. It is pretty much the exact opposite of being rigid or strict.
In literally any family, support is essential. And that brings us to the phrasal verb, to lean on. This means to depend on someone for help or support. You might say, you can always lean on your friends. Or, as our quote highlights, I lean on my parents when I have problems. You are, metaphorically speaking, putting your emotional weight on someone else.
So where does that support usually come from? Well, it often comes from wisdom, good judgment, and experience. Older people, like grandparents, often share their stories and their advice with the younger generation. Like our example says, we can learn wisdom from older people. It's all about that lived life experience.
All right, Section 3, Conflict and Separation. This is where we touch on some of the more difficult seasons families can face.
Let's compare harmony and conflict here. First up, to see eye to eye. This simply means to agree with someone. For example, my brother and I see eye to eye on most things. But conversely, sometimes families have fought, meaning they argued or had conflicts. It's totally normal. You might hear something like, the two friends fought yesterday. And, sometimes when people don't see eye to eye for a really long time, it can lead to divorce, which is the legal end of a marriage. It can definitely be a sad time for a family. Used in a sentence, you might say, their divorce happened 2 years ago, or the children were sad after the divorce.
During those difficult times, people might naturally feel miserable, which just means being very, very unhappy. Picture a sad, flatly illustrated character standing in the pouring rain. You can use this word for temporary things, like the bad weather made everyone miserable, or you can use it for more profound life events, like He felt miserable after losing his job.
Moving to Section 4, Life's Hard Realities. Let's look at some practical challenges. First up here is orphanage. This is a place where children without parents are cared for. It can actually be a really safe, caring home environment with teachers actively helping the kids learn. You might read in a story, "He spent several years in an orphanage," or "The orphanage provides food and education."
Let's actually trace a quick little family journey to weave 4 new vocabulary words together. Imagine years ago, the family is always on the move. That means moving from one place to another constantly. Then, months ago, the mother cannot afford a house. She just doesn't have enough money to pay for it. But look at today. Eventually, or finally, she finds a fixed job, a job that is permanent and regular.
And finally, Section 5, Final Practice Sentences. Let's put this all into some real-world context. Let's read through this first batch of practice sentences together. Number 1. Peter's parents are supportive but strict. Notice how combining those 2 words gives you such a clear picture of them? Next, Linda's parents did not see eye to eye and later got a divorce. And lastly, teenagers often lean on their parents for advice and wisdom. Visualizing these concepts with our clean, modern illustrations really anchors them in your memory, doesn't it?
Let's wrap up our practice by reviewing the little narrative we built earlier, but in full sentences this time. Sally lived in an orphanage because her mother could not afford to keep her. And then the resolution. After many difficulties, Sally's mother eventually found a fixed job. Seeing these words actually working together in context proves that you've got them mastered.
Wow, we have covered a ton of ground today, from romance and unions all the way to the hard realities of life. But, learning isn't just about memorizing a list. It's about application. So I want to leave you with this final thought. Think about applying this vocabulary to your own life. Who do you lean on for wisdom in your family? Really think about it. Maybe even write your answer down using a few of the other words we learned today. Keep practicing your English every single day. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.